Good afternoon, everyone. How are we doing? Welcome, all of you. Let me just change over. Hi there. How are we all doing? Welcome to Math Squads with Yusuf. I am he himself, Yusuf. Welcome to this week's lesson. Thank you all so much for joining. As you know, I'm Yusuf. We're going to do some maths today, as we always do. We're going to chill, we're going to relax, and hopefully we're going to learn some bits about solving equations. So to begin with, how's everyone doing? Let me know in the chat as you enter. If you're a regular, welcome back. You're an absolute legend. I called you guys legends because you're regulars and you attend every single week. So thank you for doing so. If you're a new face, let yourself know. Welcome to the community. We're all family here, and we're all a team. So let yourself be known. I am interested in seeing some of your cool display pictures as well. Okay, as you can see, I've got a nice NFT for mine, so I'm interested in seeing what you guys have got as well. But other than that, how have you all been? Hi Inga, nice to see you, man. Amazing moderator Inga's in the chat as well. Hope you're doing well. How's everyone else doing? It is a pleasure always to see you guys and have you guys. Okay. And how have you been? How's math lessons been at school? How has school been in general? I know it's the end of the year where, things can mellow down a little bit. Some of you will still have end of year assessments. I know most of you will probably be finished with those. And you're just nearing the end and you're sort of calming things down. Some of you might have activities going on like field trips, sports days. Any of you got any of those activities going on? Hi Lucy, thank you so much for joining. I hope you're well. Let me know what you guys are up to. How, sometimes when it comes to the end of the year, especially in summer, schools tend to, when I was studying, they tended to do things like field trips, sports days. So not only was summer the most favorite part of the year because of the weather, but also because of those fun activities. Okay, so we'll give it 2 minutes. We'll just have a quick little chat, and we'll begin with solving equations. So yeah, as I was saying, solving equations, for those of you who aren't aware of it in terms of what it is, think of solving equations as rearranging algebraic equations. Okay, you want to find the value of variables and so on and so forth, essentially, and then we do so by rearranging some equations. Okay. If you already know that, try and see if you can descriptively come up with an answer to what solving equations means to you as well. Okay, so there's several aspects of this. We're going to go from a more generic beginner level, and then we'll build it up with the different complexities and stuff. I'm thinking that we might spread this out over 2 weeks. Let me know what you guys think, depending on how quickly you guys pick it up. I am thinking to spread this out to have like a part 1 this week and then a part 2 next. Primarily because of the fact that there's quite a bit to do, but also because it's quite an important topic. So I'm interested in trialing that, where we have something. It's not great to trial something over 2 weeks, but I think it is important for this just because of the vast amount of content. Okay. So I hope that's clear. If you have any questions, obviously, please guys put it in the chat. I love to converse with you and have some conversations in the chat. So if you do have any questions, please ask those. Okay, right. Let's get going then. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change over the screen. There we go. You can still see me. Yes, that's absolutely fine. Perfect. So, solving equations. So, what are we talking about when we introduce this topic? Then, what is the most important thing? What are the things that we need to know? Okay. Well, let me just move this over. Okay. So, here is an example. Essentially, what we are doing is we want to rearrange equations so that the variable or the letter in the equation ends up on its own, essentially. So here we have an example equation where we have a question where we have 4n plus 20 is equal to 32. Right? The letter or the variable in this particular question is n. Okay, so what's happening is we have the letter n, which is a value essentially, right? Which is a value, and we want to find the value of n. But all we know is that when you multiply n by 4 and you add 20, you get the answer 32. So how do we go about finding the value of n? Well, as you can see on the board, we do so by eliminating things that are next to the next to the n or the variable, and we go about getting n on its own. And in order to do that, if you can see, what we have here, first and foremost, we get rid of the 20. Okay, we minus 20 because we want to go towards getting n on its own. So we subtract 20 from both sides because then it's an equation. We have to subtract it from both sides. Once we subtract 20 from both sides, we're left with 4n, which comes from this left-hand side, and 12 on this right-hand side, which appears from subtracting 32 and 20. Okay, and now to get n on its own, we just divide, sorry, there should be a divide symbol here. Okay, we divide both sides by 4. Okay, and the reason we do these, guys, the reason why we subtract here and we divide here is to do with a term called reverse operations. Does anybody know what it means when I say reverse operations? Okay, who can tell me in the chat? Does anyone know what reverse operations mean? If you don't, that's okay, I'll explain it to you now. Essentially what we are doing is, if something is being added, as an example, in an equation, the reverse operation of that would be the opposite. So subtracting would be the opposite. Okay, and vice versa, the opposite of subtract is to add. Similarly, when it comes to multiplication and division, they oppose each other as well. So the opposite of multiplying is divide, and vice versa, right? So because 20 was being added in this equation, that we got rid of the 20 by subtracting. So reverse operations, that is a term I'm going to reuse again and again throughout this lesson. So it's very important that you're aware of what that means. So the reverse operation here was subtracting 20. And we did, after we did that, we got the 4n on its own. And we know that 4n is the same as 4 times n. So to get rid of the 4, reverse operations again, the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So that is why we divided by 4. Okay, and we end up with the value of n equals to 3. Okay, and we can verify that this is true if you substitute n is equal to 3 into the top equation. Okay, so times it by 4 and add 20. Do you actually get the answer 32? And if you do, well, then you know you've got the right answer. Okay, so here are just some examples of what you need to do when it comes to reverse operations. So if you have a variable and a number added to it, to get rid of that number, to get the variable on its own, because that's the most important thing. The most important thing about solving equations, guys, is to get the variable, the letter, on its own. So if we have something being added, we get rid of the number by subtracting. That is why we minus 4 to get our x on its own. If we have a multiplication or a letter and a number, okay, how do we get rid of the number there? We divide. Okay, again, for some reason the divide symbols have disappeared. So just bear with me, guys. I'll try and pick up on those wherever I see. So yeah, to get rid of that, we would divide, and to get rid of a fraction, because a lot of you probably know when we have a fraction, we're dealing with division. So the reverse operation of division would be multiplication. Hi, Mikhail. I hope you're doing fantastically well. Thank you so much for joining. You are a regular, as I'm very well aware, so thank you so much for joining again. We're doing quite an interesting topic today to do with solving equations, so I hope you managed to get some of this introduction stuff. Okay, so just a quick roundup, guys. Whenever we have an equation and we want to solve it, we just want to go towards having the variable, the letter, on its own. How do we get the letter on its own? We get rid of things next to the letter by applying reverse operations. Okay, so let's move on to the next example. Okay, so here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to blur it out. So generally speaking, guys, generally speaking, you always want to get rid of any pluses or minuses first. Okay, let me just shift that across. Yeah. So here we have an equation, 3n minus 5 is equal to 13. Generally speaking, we want to get rid of anything that's being added or subtracted first, then we deal with the multiplication and division. So at this moment of time, we have 3n minus 5. The letter we're interested in solving for is n, right? And we have it being multiplied by 3, and also we're subtracting 5. So first and foremost, I'm going to get rid of this 5 first. And how do we get rid of the 5? Reverse operations. Again, I'm going to reiterate it. Reverse operations, reverse operations, reverse operations. So when we apply, what's the opposite of minus 5? Well, obviously, it's plus 5. So we're going to add 5 to both sides, because it's an equation. When we add 5 to the left-hand side, the 5 altogether just disappears. Okay, so we'll just be left with the 3n. And obviously, we have to do the same to the right-hand side as well. So we have to add 5 to 13, in which case we get 18. And again, Divide symbol has disappeared, so I'm going to put those in. And we divide by 3, okay, to get the final answer, or to get an n on its own, which is 6, okay? So I hope that made sense. Hi, Hannah, I hope you're well. Thank you so much for joining. Okay, so how are you feeling about this, guys? And again, you can always verify if the answer is correct by substituting in your value for n into the original equation, right? So if we sub in n is equal to 6 into here, so multiply it by 3 and subtract 5, do we get 13? Well, let's check. 3 times 6 is 18. 18 minus 5 is indeed 13. So that is how we can verify that this answer here is definitely correct. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Thank you for those who've put the answer in the chat. Thank you, Mikhail. Hope that is clear and straightforward to understand. Okay, if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay, right, what we're gonna do now, okay, this is, yeah, and sometimes the solution cannot be, won't be a whole number as well. Let me just move this across, yeah. So sometimes you'll have an answer which is not a whole number, and that is possible as well, okay? It can be a fraction, it can be a decimal, whatever you want. More often than not, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I think on a non-calculator they will give you relatively nice numbers, okay? But it's not a definite. They might give you some equations in which the solution is a fraction or something like that. If it is, obviously just give it as a fraction. You don't need to write it as a decimal or anything like that. Leave it as a fraction, and so on and so forth, okay? This is an example for you to see just how that works, right? So if you want to make a note of this, please do. But I think what I'm going to do, we'll come back to, there's more examples like this later on, so I'm thinking to come back to this, okay? So what we're going to do now is actually a quick exercise. Okay, yes, and we also have fractions obviously as well. So we're going to do an example with fractions. But as we were discussing beforehand, when it comes to fractions, that's just division. Isn't it supposed to be 14 over 6, not 14 over 16? That's a good point. Let me double check for you. Yes, you're right. My bad. This was obviously a mistake on my hands. Thank you so much, Mikhail, for pointing that out. Okay, yes, this should actually be, scrap this, okay, because you're dividing both sides by 6. Okay, so Z would actually be 14 over 6. Okay, because you're dividing 14 by 6. Thank you so much, Mikhail. That's a very good point. And then if you simplify this further, it would be 7 over 3. Right, so actually this answer here was the correct one. It's just, so let me just rub that out, yeah. So it should have been 14 over 16. So 7 over 3 is the final answer, which you should get. Thank you so much, Mikhail, for pointing that out. Okay, let's go back to this. And again, okay, so many students this time round, they'll be unsure of what to do. Okay, because remember how we've said in any type of equation, when you're applying reverse percent operations, you should always get rid of anything that's being added or subtracted. But there is no symbol, or there is no sign in front of the 3, because there's nothing here. So what do? Do we add, subtract, minus, or sorry, divide or multiply? Well, in this case, we would actually subtract. And the reason for that is 3 plus x over 5, okay, is the same as, so I'm going to rewrite this as x over 5 plus 3, right? Because we know addition is commutative. For those of you who don't know what commutative means, basically the order doesn't matter when we're dealing with addition. So 3 plus x over 5 is the same as x over 5 plus 3. Okay, so if you want to visually think of it as this way, to help it make it easier for you in terms of what you need to do, then by all means do so. Okay, now it's nice and straightforward. We can subtract 3 from both sides because we have this plus, the plus sign in front of the 3. And so we're left with x over 5 is equal to 25. Okay, why? Because we subtract 3 from 28 as well. And what do we do now to get x on its own? We're going to multiply both sides by 5. Okay, because that is the reverse operation of divide. And so x is equal to 25 by 5, which is 125. Oops. Okay, so if it makes it easier for you guys to have the variable or the term with the letter first, by all means do so. I know I personally prefer that. So what I would do is, if I was to see a question like this on any paper or anything like that, I would make sure I would I would rearrange the left hand side for it to be x over 5 plus 3. Okay, great. Any questions thus far, guys? If you do, obviously leave them in the chat, but I can't see any, so I'm going to move on. And what I would like us to do now is just a little bit of an exercise where I'm going to show you some equations on the screen, and then I want you guys to vote in the chat, okay, in terms of what you think the operation or the first reverse operation would be, okay, in the chat, okay, or for each equation, okay. Bear with me, there might be a slight delay as well, because I know I'm about 10 or so seconds ahead of you guys, so bear with me. I know you might be a bit delayed. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you the first question. Okay, so the first equation that we have is the following: 2x plus 7 is equal to 5. So I don't want you to tell me what the actual step is, just the operation, guys. What is the first operation that needs to be applied to get 2x on its own? Okay, do we need to do some sort of multiplication, division, addition, or subtraction? Okay, I know, again, my division symbols have all disappeared, so bear that in mind. Okay, so I'm just going to put those in whenever I can. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it, and we'll go through it. Okay, so I think that should be enough time. Hopefully some of you put it in the chat already. I see one of you has. Thank you, Mikhail. The answer is indeed subtract. We subtract 7 from both sides, because remember, when we always do the addition and subtraction first. Exactly. Thank you, Mikhail. Then we divide. Okay, I haven't put that in the screen as of yet, but yes, we would divide. Thank you so much. Okay, next question. If you're in the chat, please vote. Okay, 3x is equal to 9. Okay, what operation do we need to do here to get x on its own? Any ideas? 3x is equal to 9. So when we have a number and a letter multiplied together, what operation is happening at that point? Okay, and if you're aware of that, then obviously you'll be able to know what the reverse operation would that be. Okay, couple of seconds in the chat. Let me know what you think it is. What do you think is the first step to get x to go towards x on its own? Thank you, Mikhail. I know you've mentioned divided by 3. That's a good shout. Okay, we'll give a couple of seconds if anyone else wants to input anything. Okay, yes, indeed. Yes, perfect. Thank you, Mikhail. You were right. We would divide by 3. I don't know why they've all managed to disappear my divide symbols. Maybe it's something to do with the compatibility, right? So yes, we would divide by 3. Thank you so much. Next one. Ooh, tricky one. -1 plus 7x is equal to 13. What is the first operation we're going to apply here to get or go towards getting x on its own? Any idea, guys? -1 plus 7x is equal to 13. What can we get rid of first? Again, if any of you want to rearrange this so that the variable, the term with the letter always comes first, by all means do so. Okay, because it might make it easy for you. What do you think the answer is, or what's the first step in going towards getting x on its own? Any ideas? If you're in the chat, let me know. Give you a couple of seconds. If you're unsure, have a guess. Have a guess. Remember, we're all a team. And you know, there's nothing wrong with making mistakes, because when you make mistakes, that's when you grow and make the most progress. Okay, I've got our answer in the chat. Thank you so much, Mikhail. Indeed, that is the right answer. Okay, because as we mentioned, we want to get rid of any pluses or minuses first. Because we had a -1 in the equation to begin with, we want to get rid of that first. And how do we get rid of anything? Reverse operations. Reverse operations in this regard was obviously adding, because that's the opposite of -1. Perfect. Next one. y over 3 is equal to 9. Y over 3 is equal to 9. What do we need to do here to get y on its own? Y over 3 is equal to 9. Okay. And if you want, you could actually give me the answer as well to this. Once you apply the operation, nice, Mikhail, thank you so much. It's really, really amazing to see how much your input. Okay, times 3 is the correct answer. Okay, y is equal to 27. Thank you so much. Next one. That's all actually. What I have for you guys now is just a series of different questions I want you guys to have a go at. Okay, to do with rearranging equations. Okay, so and solving equations. Sorry. So have a go at them. They start off relatively straightforward, and then they get somewhat progressively harder. So I'm thinking I might give you about 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, you don't need to do all of them, just do as many as you can, and then we'll discuss answers in a short while. Okay, I will go through any that you feel you're uncertain of in terms of how we obtain the answers. Okay, but for now, just make a copy of all of these, okay, and then have a go at some of them. See if you can find the value, right? So it says solve the following equations showing 4 working out. So when we solve, we want to find the value of the letter in each equation. So as an example, for the first one, we have n minus 4 is equal to 10. Okay, n is a value. What value do you must you have if you subtract 4 from it, you'll end up with 10. Okay, so on and so forth. You can't see. That's weird. Is anybody else having the same problem? Let me know if you guys can see the full questions. So the answers I've put a rectangle over. Blurry. That's weird. Okay, if anybody's having the same issues, I can. Okay, Hannah, what I'd suggest is maybe reload the stream just to make sure everything's okay in terms of your connection. I do have a copy of the stream on to my right. Just checking that. Yeah, if you're able to increase the quality of the stream from the settings, if it's possible. But yeah, I do apologize if it's. Oh, you want me to increase the quality? I mean, based on our settings, I have tried to make the quality as high resolution as possible. So, I mean, I'm just going to double check. Yeah, so, I mean, there is an option for 1080p. If you want to apply that from your own settings, Hannah, that might be the way to do it. Okay. Yeah, Mikhail says he can see it, so it might be. Wow, wow, that is amazing speed, Mikhail. I can't believe you managed to do all of them. That is absolutely brilliant, fantastic stuff. Okay, Hannah, what I would suggest is apologies. I'm so sorry if it's the case. I am, like I said, I've got a copy of the stream here, and it seems to be okay. What I would suggest is reload. If it doesn't work, then maybe try another browser. I do apologize. I wish there's something I could do to fix that for you, but I can't seem to think of anything. Okay, nice. It's nice to see you guys are done. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the answers in the chat, on the screen, so you guys can mark them. Okay. Here are the answers. There you go. I'll zoom in for you. Mark them off for me, please. Yes, so some of them, the last two in particular, didn't have whole number solutions. Okay, so as you can see, I'm happy for you to leave it in fractions form. Okay, you don't need to convert it into decimal. Okay, because sometimes the decimal might be recurring and so on and so forth. So they're not interested in how you can if you can convert fractions to decimals. They're interested in if you're able to find a value for the variable. Okay, seems like you guys are helping each other on the chat as well. Nice, lovely. I love to see that. Okay, hope Any questions with these guys? You want me to go through any of them? I mean, judging by how you're doing, I think you managed to get most of them right. Okay. If not, just double check. If you double check and you still can't figure out how the right answer is the right answer, let me know and I'll go through it. Okay. But I can't see anything in the chat suggesting that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move on to the next screen. Okay. In which I have some more equations, some more questions. These are relatively more complicated. I mean, not too much more difficult. Okay. But the solutions now, obviously, I think only a few of them are actually whole number solutions. So it's just testing your ability to deal with fraction solutions, so on and so forth. I do apologize. I just realized that the spacing between each of these isn't great. So I'm going to try and help you out for that. I'm just going to put something there. Some sort of dividers, yeah? Just so you guys know that what bit is part of what question. Okay, yeah, that. Sorry guys, yeah, the spacing I should have probably thought of before. Okay, yes. What year are you in? Oh, you're talking to Mikhail, sorry, I thought you were talking to me. Okay, yes guys, have a go at this then. Okay, I'll give you another couple of minutes and I'll show you the answers. Okay. Yes, as our amazing moderator has said, if you're enjoying the stream, guys, leave a thumbs up, leave a like. Okay, there are some things in the description as well, things where you can leave a leave feedback, and also, you know, there's a link to the My Tutor website if you want to get in touch in terms of how to get a tutor and so on and so forth. There is also a link for my profile. If any of you ever want to get in touch, please do so with me through my Tutor profile. You can just leave me a quick message on there, whether it's to do with something you're struggling at school or just general advice. I'm more than happy to accommodate for you guys. So yeah, just those things, yeah. But other than that, please leave a thumbs up if you don't mind. It's always amazing for me just to see how the streams are progressing and how they're developing. And also I'm looking for ways, you know, to see how we can make the streams better. I know we are relatively new to the streaming industry, so we're always looking for ways to improve. So do let me know if you do have any feedback. Okay, any streamers in the chat? Any streamers in the chat will give me some advice. More than happy for you to. So 1 second.
1 second, counting down.
Shut up, Siri. It happens at least once every single session, so I apologize. Does anyone of you know how to turn that off? I mean, I know when you're supposed to say hey, SIRI, but most of the time I don't even say his name, and he just starts giving me information. Does anyone know how I can turn that off? Because I do like the feature where I say hey, SIRI, but yeah, for some reason, just randomly he starts listening. Yeah, it's annoying. That if anyone does know, please advise me. Okay, just a couple, we'll say 30 more seconds, guys, before I show you the answers, and then we have one more bit to do, and that is brackets. Solving equations that include brackets. Okay. And also one more thing as well. Sorry, there's two things then. When we have variables on both sides. Yeah, it's so annoying. I mean, you've been in the stream, right, Mikhail? It happens at least once. I know it happened a couple of weeks ago. It happened like 4 times. And I was like, oh, for God's sake, I feel like pulling my hair out. Yeah, so couple more seconds, guys, and then I'll show you the answer. Don't worry, you don't need to do all of them. As long as you guys have a concrete and consolidated method, you know, in your mind as to how we answer these questions, that's the main thing. Okay, because I am a bit wary of time, I do want to show you guys another concept. Okay, so let's mark these. Do so now. If there are any you would like me to go over, please let me know. So yeah, the answers were there was a range of answers here, and they're all fractions other than the last 3. Okay, so hopefully you were able to get them. Again, I do apologize for the spacing between the answers. Let me try and zoom in a bit more just so you guys are happy with that. Right. Hopefully that's better. So just take those off. If there are any that you want me to go over, let me know. But yeah, these were relatively nice and straightforward. Okay. Right. Any questions? I don't think so. So I'm going to give you 10 seconds and then we'll move on to the next slide. Okay. If you need me to go back, just let me know. But yeah, let's move on for now. Okay, so the next thing we cover, or we're going to cover, is what happens when we have a variable on both sides, right? Because so far we've discussed the strategy of solving equations to be, well, we want to get the variable on its own, okay? And we do so by getting rid of things, so on and so forth. But what do you do when you have variables on both sides? Well, it's pretty similar in terms of what you do. The only thing that you have to be mindful of is the fact that you just have to collect like terms. Now, if you know what what it means when I say like terms, then you're an absolute star, you're brilliant. If you don't worry, you have a chance to become a star because I'll describe it for you now. Like terms are essentially any algebraic terms which have an identical set of letters. So in this scenario, or in this example, our like terms are 5a and 2a. Okay, 5a and 2a are our like terms. So that's the first thing we do. The first thing we do is we gather them together. And how do we gather them together? How do we bring them together? Well, the same concept that we've been doing, reverse operations. Okay, so we can either take the 5a, we can either get rid of it from this side and bring it to this side, or we can get rid of the 2a from this side and bring it to this side. Okay, what I would suggest is always keep your term, okay, so your term with your like term positive. So what I mean by that is if we minus 5a from both sides, it'll get rid of it from this side, but then we'll have to do 2a minus 5a, which gives us a negative. So instead, I'm actually going to subtract 2a from both sides. So I'm just going to rewrite the equation here. Can you see it? Yes. So I'm going to subtract 2a from both sides, guys. When we subtract 2a from both sides, so we'll have to do 5a minus 2a, which is 3a. So we're left with 3a plus 3 is equal to 9. Okay, and then we're used to seeing stuff like this. You probably already know what to do. We're going to get rid of this 3 because we want to get a on its own. So we subtract 3 from both sides. 3a is equal to 6. And how do we get a on its own? We divide by 3, which someone has already put in the chat. The answer, Mikhail, thank you. I can always count on you to get the right answer. Thank you so much. Right. So yes, collect the variable terms. I know I've said variable terms, but the one I'd like you to be accustomed to or be happy to use is like terms. So collect the like terms on one side of the equation, and then the constants, so anything that's not algebraic, on the other side. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Here are some examples for you guys to have a go at. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do the first one, and the second one I'd like you guys to have a go at. Okay, remember, we want to keep our like term, the term with the letter in it, positive. Okay, so for the second one, you might want to think about if you want to take the 3y to the right hand side, or you want to bring 8y to the left hand side. Okay, something to think about. Okay. Okay, so for the first one, we have 11x minus 4 is equal to 2x minus 13. Okay, so what are we doing in this scenario? We have a term, or we have terms with x on both sides. So I'm going to gather them. We're going to bring them together first. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. Okay, I can subtract 11x as well. But if I subtract 11x, then I'm going to have a negative x term on the right hand side. And I don't really want that. So we're left with 9x minus 4 is equal to negative 13. And I want to get rid of this 4, reverse operations. I'm going to plus 4 to both sides. I'm left with 9x is equal to minus 13 plus 4, guys, is minus 9. Okay, and now it's just a case of dividing by 9 on both sides. And so x is equal to negative 1. Again, you can always double check your answer by substituting it into the original equation. Okay. Any questions thus far, do let me know. Have a go at the second one. I believe the answer is a fraction. So if you wanna give it in fractional form, that's absolutely fine. Okay. And then we'll do one more example of this, and then we'll be done for today. Yeah, so for those of you who weren't there in the beginning, guys, we discussed this topic as being sort of a 2-week thing. So this week was not an introduction, but more of like some of the terms, or the first half of this topic, and then the second half involving things like bracket and fractions we're going to cover next week. Okay. So make sure you come into next week's lesson feeling absolutely confident with all of these concepts. Okay, so you might need to double check all of these over the weekend, or at some point before next week's lesson, just to make sure everything's concrete in your mind, just so that we can use it for next lesson. Okay, so for the second one, what you should have done was subtract 3y. So take the 3y to the other side. Okay, so we would have been left with plus 4 is equal to 5y minus 5. Then I'm going to add this 5 to this this side. Did I do that right? Yes, so you're left with 9 is equal to 5y. Okay, and so divide both sides by 5. 9 over 5 is equal to y. Hope that makes sense, and hope you're able to see. Okay, I maybe should have put the steps in. Forgot to do that. So I added 5 here to both sides, and I divided both sides by 5 here. Okay, and the original step was to subtract 3y as well. Okay, hopefully that's all nice and straightforward. I hope that, you know, the method is becoming a lot clearer in your mind. The last thing that I want you guys to do then is just have a go at these examples. Okay. Let me see. Let me check something. Okay, yes, because the next thing is to do with brackets. So I think it's a nice place. It's a nice point to stop and just review everything. Okay. Here are the equations that I want you to have a go at. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and then I'm going to go through them. Okay, when I'll give you 2.5, 3 minutes actually, because just in case the stream lags a bit or anything like that. Okay, so I'll give you three minutes, and then I'm going to show you how to do them, and then we'll wrap up for today. Today's been nice. It's been pretty chilled and straightforward. I mean, normally we encounter some sort of issue. I know we had some issues with the quality, but I think we managed to find a fix for that, which is brilliant. Yeah. How's my camera today, guys? I know we had some issues with that last week, so I'm just looking at it now. Is it still quite pixel? I mean, I think it's better, but I think the pixels still are appearing quite a bit. I think I need to have a look at that. Wow, that was incredibly fast, Mikhail. Thank you so much. We've got about another 90 seconds before we go through them, so yeah, just hang tight. I mean, in the meantime, just review everything we've done today. Like I said, we're going to continue this all next week, so it's important that you're actually, not only do you are you able to understand it, but can you apply it as well, which is the main thing, as you've shown that you have, which is brilliant. But it's important that you're able to understand it in such a way that you can recall it in a week's time. Okay, like I was saying, another 1 minute, guys, and then I'll go through them, and then we'll wrap up for today. Yes, and as you guys are probably aware, I know I'm really bad at this because, you know, my time management is awful. We always dedicate the last 10 or so minutes, 15 minutes of the lesson for you guys just ask me any questions. So if you do want to hang around for that, if you have something that you want to double check with me or just ask me in general, please stick around, and I'll get those questions answered for you. Okay. Also, after the stream ends as well, I'm always around in the chat. Okay. So if you forgot something that you wanted to ask me, and then you can come back in and ask me in the chat. I'm always there for the last 10 minutes or so. Okay. Perfect. Right. I think it's time that we go over these. So for the first one, we had, what did we have? We have 3x minus 3 is equal to x plus 5. What are we doing? First things first, I'm going to subtract. I'm going to minus x from both sides. And so I'm left with 2x minus 3 is equal to plus 5. Then I'm going to get rid of this minus 3 by adding 3. And in this case, I'm left with 2x is equal to 8. And then I'm going to divide by 2 to get my answer to be x equals 4. If you got 4 as your answer, thank you so much. Well done. It shows that you've been listening and you've been concentrating, which is brilliant. Thank you if you've already put in the chat, Mikhail. Lovely to see. Okay, next one then. We had 3 minus 5x is equal to 5 plus 2x. Okay, in this situation, we have a negative term with x. Okay, and again, because we don't like negatives, we want to keep everything positive. That's what I'm going to get rid of. Okay, we do not like negative terms, especially when it comes to the term that we have the variable as part of. So I'm going to firstly add 5x to both sides. Okay, let me just divide so you know that we're not working on that question anymore. So I'm going to add 5x to both sides. So I'm left with 3 on the left hand side, and then the right hand side becomes 5 plus 7x. Have we done that correctly? Yep. Then we're going to get rid of this 5, okay, which we do by subtracting 5 from both sides. In which case I'm left with negative 2 is equal to 7x. Okay, let me zoom out a bit. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 7 to get my answer to be negative 2 over 7. Is that what you got? Yes, that's what Mikhail got. Hope the rest of you got the same answers. I know you can't see it. Let me just zoom out a bit. Yes, there we go. Negative 2 over 7 is the answer for the second one. X is equal to 4 was the answer for the first one. So I hope you guys were able to gather some information and make some progress or learn something new when it comes to solving equations. As I was saying, I mentioned this at the start, and I wasn't just saying this because it's the focus for today, but genuinely, solving equations is one of the most important aspects of the mathematical syllabus because of the fact that it reappears in so many different contexts and situations, right? So if you can, not only can you learn the method, but if you can understand everything, that is also very important, okay? So yes, we are nearing the end of the lesson. So if you guys have enjoyed everything, please leave a like. Sounds so cliche. I feel like I'm a typical YouTuber. Please leave a like, leave a comment, leave any feedback. There's a feedback link in the description, right? And I'm not only saying that because I want you guys to praise me or anything like that, but genuinely, if you guys have some constructive tips, or if you feel like I can do something that I need to improve on, then please do so. But right, by no means do I think I'm a good tutor. And if anything, I want you guys to tell me because I want to improve and I want to make these lessons as constructive and efficient for you guys as possible. Okay, so I mean, as I said, we will have a question session or Q&A session now. So if you guys have any questions, do put them in the chat. And let me know if you guys have anything in particular that you want me to talk about. Okay, if there's not, then don't worry, that's fine. I will just end the stream. But one thing I did also mention, guys, if you don't want to publicly say anything, I do have the link for my tutor profile is in the description as well. You can contact me there. Okay, you can contact me through the tutor website. Okay, you might have to create an account, but hopefully you guys, it's relatively straightforward. It won't take a lot of time. If you want to contact me in there, ask me something privately, I'm happy for you guys to do that as well. My profile is in the description. Okay, if you just want to check my profile out, fair do. I haven't checked. I should probably update it. I haven't updated it in like a year, so maybe that's something I need to do as well. Okay. Other than that, I can't seem to see any questions in the chat. So what I'm gonna do is just close the stuff there. Okay, like I said, I'm always around for 10 minutes or so anyway in the chat as the stream ends. So if you forget anything, just put it in there. What is our syllabus for the rest of the term? Good question. I'm always open to suggestions. If you guys, I mean, generally speaking, what I tend to do is I just choose the topics which I feel are the most common ones students struggle with. Okay. Or the most, so not only that, but also the ones that appear mostly on exam questions and I feel are most important to learn as well. So any ones that can strike a balance with that. What I might do is I might create a poll next time, in which I get you guys to vote for what you would prefer to do next lesson. But yeah, that's something that we're looking for suggestions. In terms of the syllabus, there is no concrete thing that I decide. I mean, to be honest, I just decide a couple of days before, based on if a student has told me what they want to go through, or if I think if a topic is important for us to cover. Okay, so good question. That's a really good question, and it allows us to pick up on something in terms of what we do moving forward. Okay, so we've got about 5 weeks actually of lessons. So if you guys have any suggestions, okay, I am also thinking that I want to start incorporating more exam stuff as well. Because I think we did that a couple of weeks ago and you guys seem to enjoy that. So I do want to incorporate some exam stuff, okay? The last 2 sessions, I'm thinking just to have a full exam classes on. That is something to think about. So if that is something you'd enjoy, do let me know. Okay, you want to do bearings and loci? Okay, that's perfect. Thank you for letting me know. I'll have to review that. Okay, bearings and loci, yeah, might be a bit tricky based on the fact that we'll need a compass and stuff like that, but I'll try and incorporate it. We'll try and do that. Okay, if other people feel like they want to do bearings and loci as well, let me know, and we can incorporate that into next week's learning or learning moving forward. Okay, other than that, guys, don't seem there to be any more questions. I hope you enjoyed everything. I hope you had a nice time. Okay, as I said, these are pretty relaxed, pretty chilled, and it's always a pleasure to have you guys. You guys are absolutely awesome. Especially the ones who turn up every single week. You know, you're an absolute delight, and I thank you for all of your inputs to the chat, and also just generally working with me. Okay, so we're going to end it there, guys. Thank you so much for joining, and again, like and subscribe, leave a comment, leave some feedback, generally anything like that. Okay, thank you so much, guys. You're absolute legends. I've been Yusuf. This has been Math Squads. I shall see you next week.